I currently work as a professor at Griffith University and in Australia at Delft University in the Netherlands, and here in Aussie I run the Safety Science Innovation Lab.
I'm a health and safety lawyer. I practice across the world in relation to responding to incidents and advising boards in relation to their compliance needs. And I'm currently the global head of health and safety at Clyde & Co. And its Australian managing partner.
Current practices around safety metrics are getting us to look at the wrong things and lead to counterproductive incentives and misguided outcomes and directions for boards to base their decisions on.
Well, it seems to me that one of the objectives, amongst others, for measuring health and safety metrics is to assure board members of compliance with work health and safety obligations or occupational health and safety obligations that the organisation has as part of their corporate governance needs. But it seems to me that if that is the objective, then the metric itself needs to actually give some guidance that is consistent with that objective. And at the moment, the current approaches don't reflect that. They neither give a good indication of practices or the state of safety in the organisation, nor do they give any level of assurance in relation to health and safety compliance. So in a sense, because they are somewhat misguided, they provide false comfort for boards and board members in relation to the state of safety in their organisation.
We need to go back on the science of this. Science has shown very clearly that if you are already very safe, which most organizations in the Western world are, then the relationship between the absence of negatives, that is, you have very few incidents, and the predictive capacity of that in terms of having big disasters or fatal accidents is becoming very, very difficult. And because you have so few negative events, it becomes really difficult to learn anything of value from them because they're so tiny. And the more we focus on reducing the number of negative events, the less we are able to learn. And so science shows that the safer you are, the more important it becomes to see safety not as the absence of negative events, because that might even incentivize the wrong behavior, but safety is the presence of capacity. It is the capacity to make things go right. And these capacities can be found in your teams, in your people, in your processes, and these capacities should be represented in how you show, demonstrate, assure your due diligence.
Now, there is general acceptance that there are 6 components of how you would reflect and show that you're exercising due diligence. The first one might be the state of knowledge and the capacity in relation to the state of knowledge within the organisation. The second one is the understanding of the nature of the operations and the risks associated with those operations, particularly looking at the critical risks in the organisation and getting some assurance around those. The third one might be about the processes and approach that an organisation takes, and particularly looking at the resource allocation and matching those resources to the needs of the organisation at a point in time. And it's quite interesting when you reflect about that, because that often is the point at which it breaks, where we start to talk about people taking shortcuts or not taking shortcuts and engage in that sort of blame language, when ultimately the reason they're taking a different path or different approach is because the resources aren't available when they need them in the manner in which they need them for the work that is being done on the ground, rather than some theoretical way in which the work is supposedly done, or the theoretical circumstances in which those workers are supposed to find themselves in. So that matching of resources to needs becomes crucial in that assurance step. And then you've got to look at just the overall awareness of the performance of the organisation, the monitoring of that performance more generally. Looking at the processes that enable that to happen from a system perspective in terms of dealing with things like communication, reporting, and matching that, and that might be grouped under the heading compliance more generally. And then finally, the sixth sort of pillar of that is typically considered the verification aspect. So if you're looking for how you might frame that, it's the knowing piece or know, it's the understand, it's the resource, it's the monitor, it's the comply and verify, which are the six elements of due diligence. And that's reflected in the approach in both the literature and case law around the world in terms of the legal obligations as they're interpreted from an assurance perspective at a board and senior executive level.